Progress.
So you should also be seeing my screen. Now I'm sharing my PowerPoint. Thanks for coming to today's session on cataloging in LEAP. So this is a bit of an expanded version of the first LEAP session we did on the update for 8.0. This is just focusing on the workflows for cataloging so that you can understand the new functions for this update in relation to the full workflow. So today I'm going to begin with a bit of an overview of some of the current state of LEAP so that you can understand the functions that are currently in LEAP and what still requires the client. I'm going to review some of the existing cataloging functions just to provide a brief overview if you're still using the client. It may be useful to have a overview of the MarcEditor functions in LEAP, and then I'll review the new settings, the template capabilities, the new functions for import profiles, and some of the authority control and authority control functions that have been added. So first I'm going to be reviewing what is still missing from LEAP and what already exists. So in the past, I have begun my LEAP presentations with a slide on what is and what isn't in LEAP. And at this point, most functionality is in LEAP. There are a few spots here and there that are still missing that do require the client. And the staff that have been trained to catalog in LEAP without using the client have actually been very happy with it, and I highly recommend trying to use it. You might find that you like what you see. Some of the benefits of using it are like the screen size, because you can make the font bigger than you can in the client. So right now, what's still missing for cataloging functions are the label manager settings for content and label size. So if you like to change the font size regularly or the font regularly, then that still requires the client. One of the other label functions that is missing is the ability to print labels from a record set. So I think we're going to need to submit an idea exchange item for that one. There are also macros for the MARC records that are missing, but I have heard of some macro programs that have been successful with LEAP that basically can be used to add text to fields in the MarcEditor. The ability to create multiple items from the bibliographic record work form at the same time is also missing. In LEAP, you have to just press copy of an existing item record in order to make the second one with those fields. Also, the ability to undelete records from a record set hasn't been added yet. Right now, the majority of all serials functions are available in LEAP. So it really has like a full workflow, and I think it's probably the easiest jump to make from the client is switching your serials workflow to LEAP. So I highly recommend checking that out. So right now, as with the other cataloging functions, the label manager settings for content and label size are missing. If you're using LEAP and you've noticed that it's automatically creating labels and you don't want it to, there's a setting that I can change for you in system administration. So do let me know if you want that to be changed. Because I know some of you order labels from a vendor or print labels from like Word or another program. There are a few other functions missing for serials. One is the ability to create new route lists. However, when you check in a serial in Leap, the ability to print a route list is in Leap. So a pop-up will appear and you just confirm that you want to print that route list and it will do so. I know very few libraries are using subscription management, but the full subscription management capabilities are still only in the client. It includes creating subscription records and managing when subscriptions need to be renewed. If anyone is interested in learning about these functions who is not using it, let me know. I do have a webinar available in case you are interested in learning more about the functions. Are there any questions so far about what is missing from Leap and what is still in the client? Feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself. If I go too fast, let me know. There's a question from Sandy. Which macro programs have you heard work in Leap? Let's see. I do have a slide that lists them. Let me take a look and find it. So there's links in these slides. I'll send them out. One is called Magical and the other is Phrase Express. So basically these functions allow you to paste text that is set up in these programs. And Fran is asking, can route lists be changed in Leap or is that still in the client as well? You can only access the route list records in the client, so any changes you need to make have to be done in the client. The only functions for route lists in Leap are the abilities to print a route list. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm going to switch to the browser. One second. So first I want to just review some of the basic Mark Editor features for those of you that are still using the client. So I'm going to search for a record so I can include demonstrations on the compare functions because I've already created a duplicate. So I'll open up this one that doesn't have item records in it. So I've created a duplicate of something that exists. So if you are interested in landing on a different page, or a different tab, I mean, than the one that it lands on, because it starts with the preview tab. And if you want it to default to the Mark tab, you can change the settings by opening the drop-down menu for your username and clicking on Settings. And there's a Workform User Defaults tab, and you have the ability of choosing which tab that you can default to for the bibliographic record, as well as for the item record, serials check-in, and background processing. So you would be able to change this to Mark if you want to. So this is the Mark view. To edit the fixed fields, you do need to click on the arrow to open them so that you can access the drop-down menus for each of the positions. You can then press OK to close that. So one thing that is a bit different about the Mark Editor is that each field, each tag, has a separate row like a text editor. So you can't just highlight multiple rows very easily to copy and paste it, even though it looks like you can, because I just did. But you need to click on the plus symbol on the right-hand side to add a new row and type in the tag. So the tag, the indicators, and the subfield is completely separate as a text box. And you can tab from one to another and also use the minus symbol to remove that or remove any of the tags that you want to. The arrows on the left hand side will help you move things up and down, but if you don't, it will save it to the system-defined settings for the order that we have our tags appearing in. One of the useful functions is this little eye symbol, where you can click on it and access the information on what each of the subfields mean and the indicators mean. So this could be useful for a new cataloger. It also has a reminder down here that Control Q is for inserting the delimiter. One thing that's important, if you are in the habit of copy and pasting information from OCLC Connection into Leap or the client, make sure that the delimiter is the right delimiter, because the delimiter in Connection is different than the one in Leap. So if you see a black delimiter, it's not the right delimiter. If you click away from it, if you're clicking on it, on the field, it will be gray, but you can see if you click away from it, it's green. So it needs to be green to be the right delimiter. So make sure you use Control Q to add the correct delimiter to the field. There are some shortcuts that could potentially be useful to you if you like to use shortcuts in a client. This is under the Help drop-down menu. You can click on Keyboard, and you can find a list here of the Mark Editor shortcuts. These are very sensitive to where you place your cursor, though. They will only work if you're clicking on the specific area. If you're not clicking on a tag and say press Control S, it will not do the correct thing. So here, Control S saves changes and closes the Mark Editor, but it won't do it correctly unless you're actually clicking on a field. I think that one of the most useful functions of Leap is the compare work form. This will help you to compare two different records so that you can easily copy and paste the tags that are missing from one record into another record while deduplicating. So I'm just going to demonstrate that quickly. So these are really the same records. So it's not the best example of what you would normally use for your own workflow, but I've deleted, just for an example, I've deleted the series headings from one record so I can demonstrate pasting them into another. So in the compare records work form, you can open up by clicking on this plus symbol up to about 20 records, and you can flip between them. So I'm just going to use this one as an example. So the icons are very small here. One of the useful icons at the top is this one that looks like a little line graph next to the save icon. It's for aligning tags. So basically we'll take all of the tags from the record on the right that are missing in the record from the left and add them. You do have this next to that, another icon for opening it. So this will open it in a separate window. And there's a lot of arrows. So we have the up and down arrows to move the tags up and down. And on the right-hand side, we have an arrow facing to the left. So this helps move that tag to the left without copying and pasting between records. So you can see I just moved the 490 tag, and I'll also move the 800 tag. So next you need to save that by pressing the save icon. Okay, so I'm going to now close the compare work form. One of the things I noticed recently is if you use that compare work form to move tags from one to the other, you do need to press the save and refresh button to make sure that those headings are saved before you deduplicate it. So let me just check this. Oh, it didn't copy those. Okay, so I have made this mistake once before where I tried to deduplicate it and it didn't save those changes. So you need to, it was, so it had the save button active because I had opened up that 008 tag and made a change by just, I didn't make a change, I just opened a drop-down menu and pressed OK, and also added and deleted tags. So that caused it to need to be saving first. So to make sure those changes stick when you open that compare work form, what I recommend doing is pressing save first, then go to that compare work form. So I'm going to try this again. So now I need to add in that 490 and the 800. If I press save here, it doesn't save the work form that's already open. So now I need to press refresh. So now you can see the 490 has been properly added. So again, if you make changes before you compare, you need to press save. Then you can compare. Save the change that you make when using the compare button or the compare work form, then refresh. That will make sure that the saved fields will appear in your open record. Now I can deduplicate it properly so that the tags are retained in the record that I want to retain. So it's a bit of a roundabout way of demonstrating that. It's a bit tricky. Are there any questions that you have on this mark editor function, comparing and deduplicating, or anything that I've demonstrated so far? Okay, great. I'm going to now move on to the item screen or the items tab. So one thing I just want to do as a refresher is point out the bulk change functions of the item tab. You do have the ability to do ad hoc bulk change from here. So this could potentially be useful if you've got, say, a bunch of book discussion group books that you need to make a change to, whether you're withdrawing them or making any change. You can access the bulk change work form from here instead of the record set. But there isn't a delete button here yet. So you either need to go into the individual records to delete them or add them to a record set. You can delete them in bulk from a record set. From an item record, you do have the option to print labels from here. The settings for the label printers options are in the settings dropdown or in the settings screen that you can access from the username dropdown menu. It's on the print options tab, except for direct to print, which has its own direct to print tab. So down here, you have the abilities to set your cataloging and serials labels. Default, they should be the same as in the client. And you have your options for your print method, on-demand, batch, or quick print. So for batch and on-demand, they will go to the label manager, and you'll find the label manager under utilities and label manager. Looks like I must have cleared my, oh, there's some examples that didn't clear. So if you do need to edit the labels, I do get a question regularly about editing it. You can click into each individual label to edit it before printing, and then click on Actions and Print Labels. So without using Direct to Print, it will go directly to a PDF file to print it before you send it to your printer. If you have any problems printing labels from Leap, please do let us know. There are some tricks to troubleshooting label printing, and I can help you out. So one of them is using the Scale drop-down menu, in which you can try a custom scale instead of the default and see if that works for you. So those are the existing functions that I wanted to briefly review before moving on to the new functions. Are there any questions yet? Feel free to let me know if you have any questions or you want me to slow down. I have a question from Claudia. How can you set up your print options to print a bib record without the tag fields overlaying the data in the fields? Let's see. She gave an example. Huh. I haven't seen that yet. I'll need to do some testing and we'll get back to you on that. I haven't tried to print from Leap yet. Thanks for sending that example and sharing it with us. I will do some testing and report that to Innovative if I can't figure it out. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm going to move on to my next section on new settings. So there are two new settings that I want to highlight today. The first one is the initial article table in Leap. So this setting excludes the initial articles when performing exact match searches in the Find tool. So the setting omits words from the initial articles table like the and, or like the, a, and la, I think are in it. I don't think, we may need to check on that. I saw la in the table and I'm not sure why L is missing and la is there, or los or las. So an example is for like the words The Shining, the search term, if you type in The Shining, and the term that's indexed is Shining, it would bring up results for both Shining and The Shining if you use the setting. So I'm going to go back to the browser. So to navigate to the setting, this is also in that user name drop-down menu in settings. And it's under Workform User Defaults. So on the right-hand side below your Workform Tracker settings, you'll find the Find tool, and you just need to check the box for Use Initial Articles tables if it hasn't been checked already. And the next setting that I hope will be very useful to you is the direct to printer settings. So we reviewed some of this already in the What's New in Leap webinar. So the direct to printer settings are optional. Oh, I do see a question about how would it handle names like Los Angeles or Las Vegas? That's a good question. That's probably why Los and Las are missing from the initial articles table, because I think it only had La. So it would handle that as it not being an initial article. Okay, so the direct to printer settings are optional. So if printing is Leap is working for you, you may not need to try it. There are several benefits for using direct to printer. So these include that the settings are stored in the database, allowing Leap to bypass the browser print dialog and send the receipt or label print jobs directly to the printer. Without the label printers, the modify permission, the staff cannot change the workstation printer configurations in Leap, but can still view the settings and help with troubleshooting. So print settings would stay with the workstation and organization and not the user. And CCS can help you modify the workstation settings on the system administration end. So this slide has a basic overview of the steps for setting up direct to printer with links that go to the web page with instructions on how to do that. So first, you or your IT department will need to request the printer certificate from CCS via the help desk ticket. So everyone needs the same certificate. So each library doesn't have separate certificates. So you'll work with your IT department to install and configure the QZ Tray program. After that, you need to contact the help desk again to request the direct to printer system administration configuration from CCS. Then you'd be able to configure your printing settings in LEAP. On that direct to printer tab of the settings. So there have been some limitations that have already been reported in a cataloging forum from IUG. So I haven't tested this myself yet, and so these settings are just directly from a report from an IUG discussion forum. So some have found that label printing can be a bit more constrained. So using QZ Tray with auto print enabled only allows one label to be printed at a time. So that may be fine for you, especially if you are using continuous feed rolls. This is an easy thing to do for printing one at a time. But if you're using sheets for printing your labels, you might not benefit from this if you want to print multiple labels on a sheet at a time. So multi-label printing via the PDF print dialog is only possible without using that direct-to-print setting. So that would be that screen where I demonstrated the PDF appearing as a preview before you print it. So I did link to some documentation here that also affects IT-related tips about certificates. But again, the certificate thing is really about the CCS side of things because everyone will be having the same certificate. We will just provide it to you when you submit your help desk ticket. And there's also a slide here with some more links for the instructions and the link for downloading QZ Tray. So again, to find these, once you are ready to set up the LEAP settings, these are under your username drop-down menu with settings on direct to printer. So you would check the box and we'll work with both CCS and IT to set these up. So there's separate settings for the receipts and slips and the labels, as well as the ability to set up a printer margin that's a default printer margin for all of your labels. So it would be basically the same for all labels. So if you need to switch to different label sizes and have different label printer margins, you may need to set up different workstations for those different margins. Staff can choose whichever workstation they need to be logged into when they log in. I did notice though that with the new upgrade with 8.0 that sometimes when I log in, it goes from directly from my screen for my username and password to directly log me in without letting me select the library and workstation. But if I log out and log back in again, I can see the page for selecting the username. For selecting the library and workstation then. So if you do run into that, that's the trick to getting back to that workstation page so you can select a different workstation. Are there any questions about the settings so far? Okay, I don't see any more questions about settings, so I'm now going to move on to the next topic. So the next topic is the bibliographic record templates. So I know that most of you don't need to create new templates because you already have them, but I do want to review the functionality and show how they can be useful. So I'm going to close this. You do now have the ability to create new templates from scratch. If you need it from the new drop-down menu, you would hover over the word template and you will see bibliographic here, as well as item and weeding. So the work form has the same functionality as the Marc Editor for editing records. So you would just name the template. The template owner can be your library, but the owner needs to be Cooperative Computer Services with SYS in parentheses, because this will be the bibliographic record owner. And it needs to be that one with SYS in parentheses so that all libraries will be able to have access to that bibliographic record so they can put their item records on it and share it. I know most of you will want to just edit existing templates or copy a template to create a new one. So you can now search for your templates in the Find tool. Under the Database drop-down menu, you will find Bibliographic Template. You can add a filter by clicking on that funnel icon. So I'm going to use the owner for the filter. We've got many templates that have been saved with the owner of Cooperative Computer Services that you can use. I just like to type the word cooperative and then an asterisk as a wildcard. So I don't type the whole thing out. And I'll type another asterisk to bring up all of the templates. So we've got some that are default. So I know most of these are used by acquisition. So I am going to be reviewing this again during the acquisition session. And I'll just open up one of these video game templates. I think these are the ones that will be very useful to acquisition staff too. So if you want to copy an existing template, you can open the Actions drop-down menu and press Copy, and then change the template owner to your branch. You can then make any changes that you need to the default data and press Save. It's fairly easy to copy it. If you need to edit any existing templates, you would do a search as I did, make any changes, and just save it. You do have the ability to make templates from bibliographic records. So I'm going to search for an early learning kit. So these could be very useful as templates. So there's a lot of different components in it. So I'll just open this one at the top from Niles. So if you wanted to take a bibliographic record and make it into a template, you would open the Actions drop-down menu and click on Create Template. So I'm just going to change the name of the template. You can change the owner to your library, make any changes that you need, and press Save. So from a template, you can see here that there's no way to create a bibliographic record from a template in the screen. Just copy and delete the template. If you were creating a kit record and wanted to use that template, you would need to open the new drop-down menu, press Bibliographic Record, and then you can choose a template from the from the drop-down menu to create the record. You would make changes to it as you need to, and then press Save. So I'm going to review this again with acquisition staff to show them how they can create bibliographic records when releasing the purchase orders on Monday. So from here, you would be able to then create a new item by clicking on either the New or Local Items tab, clicking on New Item, or from the Actions drop-down menu, there's Create Item. So even though we've had some item templates functionality for a while, I'm just going to briefly review that because you can create new templates from scratch by clicking on the New drop-down menu, hovering over template, and clicking on Item. One of the frequent questions I have is how to find the item templates in Leap. So you can access them from the Find tool. You click on Find, and in the Database drop-down menu, click on Item Template. And you can type in your template name, or you can use asterisk to bring all of your templates up. I'll just open this one up, and then you'd be able to edit it as you need to, and then press Save. There's also an option under the Actions drop-down menu to copy, to create another template like this so that you can make minor changes or delete it. One of the things that I'd like to point out that's a bit different in Leap than the client is when you are creating an item record and you choose a template. I'm just choosing the one at the top. This screen that looks like a preview screen doesn't function exactly the same as it does in the client. So you can see that it's added in settings down here, but there's some things that may be missing from the call number area. This is because it doesn't function exactly the same. You don't have to type in any call number settings that are missing, change any settings that are missing. You have to create item first. Although this didn't have anything in it, if it did, you would see it appear here. So it's not the right template for this specific record, but you get the picture. Are there any questions about bibliographic records or item templates? Or bibliographic record templates? If you need me to slow down and I'm going too fast, let me know. I can demonstrate something again. Okay, I'm going to move on to import profiles. So right now there are still some differences between the abilities in the client and Leap only because the drop-down menus in the client are not the same as how they are in Leap. So the workflow for using full import in case you need to change your import profile before importing a file is a bit different. I don't know how often anyone uses this. So I knew there were some libraries that were not using the acquisitions module and were creating item records at the time they were importing their on-order records instead of when they released the purchase order. So I know they were potentially needing to change the item template in the items tab. I use it sometimes when I make corrections like correcting accidental merges, but I'm not sure how often anyone needs to use the full import option in the client. So this may not affect you at all. However, if you do, I wanted to just briefly review the difference between express import and full import and how the workflow will be different in Leap. So express import, you would access this from the Utilities drop-down menu in Leap. So if you are doing this and you find that you've navigated to the background processing queue and it's slow, I do recommend using an incognito browser when working in Leap if you ever find that it's slower than you want it to be. It does speed it up if you're using Chrome and can access incognito browser. If you're using another browser, it might be a private browsing instead of incognito browser. In Leap, full import is not available from that utilities drop-down menu. So what you need to do the same thing would be to access the import profile using the Find tool, change the import profile settings, save it, and then use the mark import from the utilities drop-down menu as express import, so you don't have access to change anything but the display impact settings and the record set settings. But if you need to change those settings a lot, you may just want to create separate import profiles so that you don't have to go back to your import profile and save it every time. However, one of the benefits with the 8.0 upgrade is that there are some new import profile options. One is the TCP IP mark import export ability that directly connects OCLC to Polaris without having to download a file from connection and then upload it. And of course, you still have the Z3950 connection for importing records from remote databases. But with this TCP IP connection, it would allow you to use that local practices macro, create a save file in connection, and then or export an individual file or an individual record from connection by pressing that export button. This would send it directly to Polaris. However, there are still some bugs we're trying to work out, and I'm still doing some testing. I was hoping I'd have something to show you today for it, but it's still not working on the Polaris end, and Polaris is still working on figuring out why it's not working. So as soon as it's working, I will create instructions on how to do that so that you can export your records from connection and directly import them to Polaris without having to use that mark import from the utilities drop-down menu. Another function that's new is specifically for acquisitions, and I'll go over this with the acquisition staff at the acquisitions webinar, is the ability to send on order record files from the vendor to the FTP sites, and then Polaris automatically imports them, like they automatically import invoices. So this will also be more efficient for acquisition staff and will allow them to not have to use the mark import functions under the utilities drop-down menu. One second while I switch back to my browser. So I'm going to now demonstrate in Leap the mark profile options. So under utilities, you'll find mark import. This is basically still the same as it has been as an express import. So the only thing you'd be able to change in this on these screens is that display impact settings and the record set settings. You can access all of your import profiles from the Find tool by searching for an import profile. So under the database drop-down menu, I'm going to select import profile, and I'm just going to use the ones that are templates. So I'm going to search for a template. You can search for template with an asterisk after it, although this has that as a default too for the exact search. And here are all the templates to copy. So you can type in the names of your templates to find it. You may find it useful for finding yours by using the filter. You can filter by creator. So that would require you knowing which staff member created it. So for us, that's a previous staff member. So that might not be the most useful, but you could search for your library's 3-letter code. So that should also be in your templates as well. That could help you find it. And I put an asterisk before and after the 3-letter code. So if you need to edit your template, you would open it up. So I'll just use these ones. So if you are one of the libraries that creates item records, when you import your on order records, instead of using the purchase orders, you'd be able to come to the item records tab here and choose an item template, press save, and then import your records. Oops, I press close instead of return to the results. So I'm going to search for the item template, or the import profile, I mean again. And I'll click on this OCLC full record import. So if you need to make any copies of import profiles, you would open the Actions drop-down menu and press Copy. Change the name by adding your 3-letter library code to it. And then you would need to also come to the Record Sets tab. You can change the owner of your record sets to your library and change the name of your record sets. And I'm going to save that. So when you need to import your records, what you can do is, this list is very long with everyone's records or everyone's import profiles in here. You can type in something that could be a word in your import profile name, your 3-letter library code, and you'll filter it to your templates. So you would then need to select a template, click on Select File to find your file. So you would then choose a file to import. That's not the right file. 1 second. I have another file here that I can find. So one of the benefits of using Leap is that you don't have to search for a networks drive in here to use. You can just go directly to your computer, to OneDrive, if you have that synced. There's my OneDrive file. So any so I'll just select that file of on order records and press open, and then click on import to import it. So one of the things about this though is that that jobs queue doesn't open automatically. You have to navigate to the utilities drop-down menu, click on background processing, and this will open to Mark Import, and you will be able to see the queue. The queue does take a bit longer to load, and you can press refresh if you have problems with this loading. I do recommend trying an incognito browser. It's a bit quicker. Okay, are there any questions about what I've covered so far on import profiles and import templates? It's being slow. 1 second, I have to open up another browser or another Leap browser again. Okay, so the next thing that's new on my list for cataloging is some of the authority control functions. So for those of you who are unaware of what authority records do, they are used to maintain the quality of the access points, like the author, series title, and subject headings. So to be able to work with authority records and fix unlinked headings, you will need authority records permission to set it up. So if this is something that's missing, you can let your supervisor know and they can request that if they have given you permission to work with authority records. They would just need to send in a help desk ticket and we can update your permissions. So from the Find tool, we have the ability now to import authority records from remote databases. So this is like using Z3950 for bibliographic records. You can see if you're set up for this by clicking on this icon that looks like a column or a can. You should see OCLC CCS authorities here. This is separate from the bibliographic records. If it's not there and you work with authority records and you want to import them this way, let me know and I can add it for you. You just need to submit a help desk ticket. So one thing about this, if you do want to search for them in remote databases, I find that it's easier to find something if you use a more specific keyword than all keywords. So you do need to use name or topical term or subdivision to be able to find it. So I'm just going to bring in a name record that I created recently. And I typed in Shapiro, Karen, so I just completed this one a few weeks ago. So I'm going to check the box and open it. So it's like importing the bibliographic records from remote databases. It will open it as a new authority record. And you can press save. Oh, I had already imported this one because we had the update to the training server the other day. So it is here, but this will bring up duplicate detection results, which is useful if there are multiple names or you're updating a heading. You would check the box and press replace. If you are interested in learning more about these rule group reasons, please let me know and I can provide you that information. But I'm not going to go into all those details. I'll just replace this record. So I'm going to close that and now look for a record by Karen Shapiro for a brief demonstration. So Trochosaurus. So I'm just going to use a demonstration. So one of the things that the new functions are useful for is if something has a typo in it, like a subject heading has a typo in it or a name. So I'm just going to make a change. So let's say we didn't have this death date here for Karen, but maybe a birth date or there was no date because originally this record came in with no date. So something was different here before. So I've deleted that. And I'm just going to save this to make that change. One second while it's loading. It is taking a long time to load today. Oh, there we go. Okay, so under the Actions drop-down menu, the new function is check headings, I mean. So here, you will see any unlinked headings in the list, and you can click Find. If for some reason you wanted to create a local heading, you'd be able to check the box and click Create. But this one's unlinked. So I know that I imported a new heading for this, and I want to make a correction. So what I can do to correct this quickly is search. So I can find and bring up all of the Karen Shapiro records. I know it's this one with the birth and death date. So I can select that. A pop-up will appear. You can check the box to adjust the heading, and then press continue. If there are more than one heading, if there's more than one heading in the list, you can do that same process for each of those headings and adjust all of them at the same time, and then press OK. So you'll see the results, and you can see that it's added the dates to the heading. And next you need to press save. So I think that could be definitely useful, especially if you are working with common names or know that maybe the heading is in the system, or especially for like series titles, if you want to make sure the series title is correct, you can use that check headings screen to check to see if there's any series headings that are in the system, so you can make a correction to your series headings in your bibliographic record. Are there any questions about what I've demonstrated today for the authority records or anything else that I have demonstrated earlier? If you'd like to see something again, feel free to let me know. I can demonstrate anything again. We've got some time left. I do have a number of resources that I've created slides for too. I just wanted to point them out. So there's links to the new documentation. So we've updated the step-by-step instructions on the CCS website, but we have not added videos and we have not updated the courses yet. So those will come fairly soon. But we're getting pretty busy too with the migration of Rolling Meadows and Wakanda, but we'll get those up as soon as we can. There's the page for links to the text autofill macros and the Polaris resources, the What's New page, Innovatives webinars, and you can see what's coming up next with version 8.1. There's also a QR code for our survey. Please do fill it out because we'd like to get any feedback on how to improve our training sessions and any ideas for new training sessions. So I do have a question from Ross if I can show how the TCP IP is working now. Well, I can hypothetically show you what you would do. 1 second while I open up connection. It's not working, but I can show you where things go and what the workflow would be. So on my end, I have access to settings that everyone has to use for an import profile. So I've set it up so that it uses that template to copy OCLC import profile for full level records. Unfortunately, we can't set up different import profiles for each library, but I hope that having the settings with our username in connection will be able to show you in the background processing's import jobs queue which username is importing which job, so you should be able to find that. So in connection, under tools and options, you will have your export settings. So you'll need to create a new export setting for Gateway Export by clicking on Create and selecting OCLC Gateway Export. So you'll add in a host name. Right now I have it for training because we're still testing it, port 9090. And then add in your username. You have to do the CCS \, then your username and password. So this will hopefully send your username to the import queue, but I haven't been able to do this successfully yet, so I haven't been able to test it and confirm. So you will see that gateway export here in the list, and you'll need to check this. So if you import authority records, this will not work for authority records. This will only work for bibliographic records because there is only one import profile that we can use, and that is for bibliographic records. So if you want to import authority records, you will either do what I just showed you by using the Z3950 connection to import them as a remote database, or you'll select your usual export file for authority records. So I have the gateway export selected, and I'll press apply and close. So I do need to log on, and I have some records in a save file. Let's see, I think they're in a local save file. So if you like to import records one at a time and you have a record open, you just need to press your Action Export button and you'll see this message appearing that it's using the OCLC Gateway Export status. And this is most likely going to fail because I haven't heard that they fixed it yet. So right now it's set up for a certain time period to keep trying. And if it fails, you'll see this unable to open the TCP/IP connection. The connection has timed out. So something that is still being worked on. So hopefully they'll figure out why it's not working, and I will create documentation as soon as it's working and let you know. Ross asks is it limited to single records? I don't think so. I think if you create a local file of a bunch of records or an online save file of a bunch of records, if you're in that file, you should be able to select all. Let me just move this over here again. So if you're in your local or online saved file, you should be able to select all records that you want to export and then click that Action Export button, and it will send all records at the same time. Are there any questions? It also works with WorldShare Record Manager too, or it will work hopefully once it's set up properly. Ross asked if it's only available in the client. No, you can export from connection, and then it will display in either Leap or the client's import jobs queue. So the jobs queue will look exactly the same, whether you're in Leap or the client. Are there any other questions or requests for demonstrations? I don't see any more questions. Well, thank you for showing up today. And we will be having one that's focused on the acquisitions workflows and their new functionality on the 31st. So I'll be sending out a link. Hopefully I'll send out the correct link this time. Sorry about that link mix up, but I figured it out and everyone showed up. And I will get the recording online and send it out to everyone along with the slides as soon as I can get it up online. So have a good day and a good weekend, and I'll see you next week if you're coming to the acquisitions webinar.